They say performance has an expiration date, but what if they're wrong? No matter where you start, the goal's the same: to be better, stronger, wiser, bolder. We're here for the relentless, those that don't back down, don't compromise, and don't quit. This is training for Masters athletes by Masters athletes, with a community that holds you steady. So say goodbye to random workouts, because whether you're stepping into following a program for the first time or stepping onto the podium, your journey starts here.
All right, team. Welcome to the Boulder Athlete Podcast. This is episode 12. I am Josh, and I'm here with Justin Brewer, Justin, I got to intro you with a couple things. One, you are a fellow marketer. You are a husband. You're a father of two beautiful kids. You're a fellow Duvalian. Crazy story we'll get into. You live in the same small town I do, and we just happened to bump into each other not long ago. And you're officially a 2025 Games qualifier as well, which is a huge freaking accomplishment, and we're going to talk about that also. And you've become a really good friend, and I'm super grateful for the friendship that you and I have built over the last, I don't know how long it's been. I don't know if it's been months. I think it's been months. Something like that.
Yeah, a few months.
I'm really grateful that you spent time on a Friday afternoon, beautiful Friday afternoon here in the Pacific Northwest, to hang out and stare in front of your computer and talk to me for a little while.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. Okay, Justin, before we get rocking and rolling, I got to share kind of the funny story of how I first got to know you. It was during COVID. As I said, we both live in the same small town, really small town in Washington State. And it was during COVID, and I had this nice garage gym. And so lots of people would see me working out in my gym, and, they can't go to their own gyms. And we had just been getting hammered with like, hey, can I come work out with you in your gym? From essentially total strangers. And so as open as I am, I was like, I don't know if that's the right thing. Anyways, my wife comes to me one day, and she's like, Josh, I met this guy walking his dog out in front of the driveway, and he looked fit, and he's a CrossFitter. We got to chatting. She's like, Josh, I think you guys should, get together and do a workout. And that was like the 1,000th time I'd heard that story. And so I had naturally brushed that off. Come to find out, it was you. And we didn't get really connected until, a lot later.
Mm-hmm.
Years later, I think. At least a year later.
Yeah.
Small world. I'm glad we got connected, man.
Yeah, I definitely remember that as well. What made her stand out to me is that I saw that she was wearing CrossFit shoes. And then I see your garage, and I'm like, that's a lot of CrossFit equipment. I think this dude is like serious about CrossFit. Like, we should connect. And it just took a couple years for it to happen. But here we are.
That's right. I'm glad it did. And then to continue on that story, we were at church. And this was last year in 2024. This is where we actually saw each other face to face. And we started making some connection there. And you were like, hey, Josh, I'm Justin. I do CrossFit. You're going to the games. This was right during that semifinals process, and it kind of that was the light bulb moment where like, okay, we need to find a way to work out together. We're two athletes in the same small town. We both clearly struggle growing hair, and we need to spend some time hanging out and doing fitness things.
Yeah, totally remember that. Like, we saw each other at church, and yeah, during semifinals weekend, and I believe the results were coming out that day or the next day, and I had seen you on the leaderboard. I recognized the name. I'm like, that's the guy that lives right here in Duval. What the heck? Same age group. We're both like, pushing real hard for the games, and you were in a qualifying spot, and I was giving it everything I had to get in there. And it was that we exchanged numbers, and we were just texting back and forth like constantly, like, how'd you do this workout? How do you feel about your time? All that. So yeah, that's where it definitely got started off.
So, Justin, typically I would start with like, hey, let's go back, way back in your background. I want to have that conversation. Because we're kind of on this, like the games topic, and it's so timely. Let's actually start there. You've had an aspiration to go to the games that year, the year that we met. We were both, neither one of us had been to the games. We were both aspiring at that stage, semifinals. It was feeling like it might be possible. Where were you at, like in terms of like your mentality? What was your aspiration at that time, your hopes and dreams? And then as results came out, like how did you feel?
Yeah, so, I've been on this journey of pursuing the CrossFit Games, getting to that stage for several years. Uh, t- so 2023 was the first year I made semifinals. It was a big breakthrough for me, just super grateful that I made it to semifinals. Got to compete at that stage. Um, and then it was the next year, which was last year, 24, where semifinals was more of like a look, we've been here before. Now we're all business. We're getting to the games. Like that was the only thought, the only goal that I had all year long. And I did pretty well throughout all the workouts. There was one in particular with 225-pound snatches that was a big kind of breakthrough workout for me to be able to hit those 225 snatches, but it wasn't good enough. It still wasn't good enough. And I remember the moment when the leaderboard finalized, and I believe it was top 40 last year that made it to the games. And I was sitting around 60 or 65 when that leaderboard went live. And that started maybe like a 2 to 4 week, just very down time for me. Just kind of questioning, like, what am I doing? Like, I didn't make it. I'm a failure. Do I still want to do this? I knew I needed to take a little break and kind of readjust and reflect on things. But that was a very low time for me, just because I had kind of put everything into it. I mean, I took a few weeks, maybe 1 or 2 months. I kind of took off after semifinals last year. I got out of my competitive programming and just kind of merged back into my CrossFit gym and just got back into my 6 a.m. class with my buddies. I just needed to get back to a point where I was enjoying fitness, not competing, not racing, just moving my body and enjoying the fitness level that I had achieved. And just kind of getting out of my own head a little bit and giving myself the time, space, and freedom to kind of figure things out and figure out, if I wanted to get back into competing. And it took me maybe 6 to 8 weeks. And then I was like, I think I did the Legends qualifiers, did really well in those. I was like, you know what? I got this. I can keep pursuing it. Just incrementally get better. I don't need to make these huge, enormous strides. Like I'm pretty good, like overall. I just need to level up in certain areas. And who knows, maybe that will be enough in this year, or maybe when I age up. We always think about that time when we'll age up into that next age group, which is a few years away from me. I'm 42 right now. So I kind of came into the 25 season with a little bit less expectation. I knew it would be more challenging. Instead of the field of 40, it dropped down to 30. And then you have all these incoming 40-year-olds that are coming into the age group. So I didn't necessarily expect myself to break through into the games this year, but I tell you what, I am so fortunate and so grateful that it happened. And I'm still pinching myself. I've known now for a few weeks that I got through, and it's crazy, man. I cannot believe like this goal has been checked off, and I made it, dude. I made it. I mean, we made it together, and just such an awesome experience.
I mean, you've clearly set us up to go dive headfirst into that conversation, and I'm going to pull us back very intentionally because that's like the climax of this thing, because it is such a big accomplishment. But the thing that I really want to get into is more of the kind of the emotional journey to get right here where you are right now, because I've gotten to know you. Like we've had these conversations, and you've let me in on some of the behind the scenes stuff that you were going through to get here, and it's really powerful. It's very easy to assume anybody at the games is just naturally gifted and they've kind of been on a linear path to get there. They have advantages that other people don't have. Like you can tell yourself that kind of a story and create this kind of false narrative. While that may be true for some, For most, it's not the story. For most, it's like it's been a real emotional roller coaster. So for to hear you say, "Hey, I had this really big expectation, maybe not expectation, this really big aspiration. You had a big dream, you had a big goal to go to the game in 2024, and you came up short." For someone that's as dedicated and as steady-headed as I know you to get to a place mentally where you're like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. That is a sharp turn, to go from like laser focused, super driven to, I don't know if this is the thing for me. And I've heard this from other athletes as well, that, you have such a big goal and such a big dream. The disappointment of not achieving that is so heavy that it essentially like almost took your life in a different direction. That's a big dang deal. How did you navigate that like 3-4 week season? Although it's a short season in the grand scheme of things, man, you're in your head a lot there. You're going through a lot of self-reflection. What are some of the things you were reflecting on, and ultimately, like, what were some of the things that drew you out in addition to Legends?
It was just kind of a crazy 2 to 4 week period after finding out I did not make the games last year, where, I mean, it kind of affected my relationships. I probably wasn't the greatest husband, greatest father, coworker, like it just kind of impacted everything. And I think it just goes to show like how badly we want it. A lot of us have been pursuing this goal of, getting to the games, or whatever your goal might be, to maybe to get to semifinals. And, we work so crazy hard every day. Like as Boulder athletes, or if you do some other competitive programming, you ever sit back and just realize like what workout you just put yourself through, and then you're going to do it again tomorrow and the day after. And I think I just allowed myself to kind of compartmentalize it and just kind of take those feelings and emotions and just put it aside for a little bit and just get back to the fitness that I love doing. I really enjoy doing CrossFit, even if I don't crush a workout. Like I love being challenged every day with a new workout. Just the whole concept of, today is bar muscle ups and power cleans, and then tomorrow I get to run and do burpees and maybe try a crazy skill inverted or something. Like I just love the challenge of it. So even if I'm not, in the red, with that super high intensity every day, still there's joy there for me, even if I'm not, in that mindset of competing and racing. So yeah, I just allowed myself to kind of gave myself the okay to just kind of get back and find the joy in training. Did that for 6 to 8 weeks, and then something started to kind of stir up in me. I think it was the Legends qualifiers. I was like, all right, here's something where I can kind of gauge my fitness, use it as a barometer, and did them really well. And I enjoyed it afterwards, and that kind of got me back into the competitive spirit. And I was like, all right, let's figure out what my goals are. How am I going to get a little bit better this year?
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say is like you just got back to the process, back to the basics. That's it's just a good approach. It's a healthy approach. And you can apply that to so many different facets of, like the pursuit of something big and bold, and then feeling defeated when you don't accomplish that thing. Rather than getting fully derailed, what do you do? And in this case, you went back to just doing what you love, finding the joy in it again. You could say that same bit of feedback and provide that same counsel, whether someone's going through, the loss of a relationship that was really meaningful. Like, what do you go back, find the things that you find joy in again. I don't know, I'm not going to make up a bunch of scenarios, but that counsel, I think, still holds pretty darn true. One thing I want you to story tell a little bit on is during that process, you were talking about like where you needed to level up in a few areas. As I've gotten to know you, Justin, and kind of you as an athlete, you're very well rounded. Like you've got some great strength, you've got great capacity, you have a lot of high skill. You're a pretty darn well put together athlete, and so you don't have any glaring holes today that stand out to me. Now in 2024, that snatch workout you brought up, and I know that was a big moment, where it was a breakthrough workout. Talk to me about like where you were, how you approached that, and then once you did break through, like just how darn good that feels.
Yeah, well, so semifinals of 2023. So the first time I had done semifinals, it was the first workout, and at least in the 40 to 44 age group, uh, we had to do this long cardio piece. It was rowing and double unders and shuttle runs. And then after, I mean, it was, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes of work, then you had a short window to accumulate as many 225-pound snatches as possible. I got zero. I even tried to do like a 185 snatch, like right before I would do some 225s. Didn't happen. So for me, that was like a huge learning, huge takeaway. Like I need to level up in my snatches. So that became a huge focus area for me leading up to the 2024 semifinals. Very much focused on my snatch work, progressions, breaking the movement down. When that 225 snatch came up again in semifinals last year, it was paired with rowing. So it was like rowing, 165 snatches, rowing, 195 snatches, rowing, and then it ended with three 225-pound snatches. I did it the first time and I wasn't able to get a 225 snatch.
Hmm.
Carried on with the rest of the semifinals workouts, and then I came back to that one to repeat. And I had gathered some tips from a couple people, really just put a lot of focus and energy into this redo, and kind of went a little bit slower on the road just to give myself all the energy into those 225 snatches at the very end of the workout, because that was the only limiting factor for me. Sure enough, I was able to get one, even though everyone around me was freaking out and screaming. I have a great support crew. I was very calm because I was like, I got to hit number 2 and number 3. So I went to proceed to number 2, nailed it. No emotion, no emotion came out because I needed to hit number 3. And then carried on to hit number 3. And after I slammed that bar down as hard as I could, I mean, it probably took me, I mean, I got a good yell out. And then maybe 5 or 10 seconds after, the biggest cry session I have had in years. And I mean, just probably a minute straight of just like silent cry and just, just getting it out. So, yeah, buddies all around me hugging me. And for me, that was just a huge breakthrough just to be able to, from what I experienced the year before, and then to come back and be able to hit those snatches on a redo to close out my semifinals. Now, like I said earlier, I didn't make the games that year, but when I reflect back on those semifinals, that was my win of 2024. That was my breakthrough. That's what I had focused on and worked on like all year long. So when I was put to the test, at least in the redo, I was able to get those. So for me, that really was a big achievement and kind of carried me on into this season.
You have shared that story with me once before, and I remember the moment you shared it. One, it struck me just how powerful that was and how much clearly that moment meant to you. And it speaks to like who you are as a person, the level of like commitment and thoughtfulness and focus that you had put into it. And so to see that paid off in a moment like that, that's so big, given all that's on the line. I just love that. It kind of gives me chills thinking about that moment for you. I wish I could have been there and seen that. And then, now we've gotten to know each other. We got to do our full semis together this year, which was such a cool experience. I've not got to do that with someone that's aspiring to achieve the same thing I'm aspiring to before. So that was a new experience for me. And I think, it was really cool. I'll speak for myself to see, your approach, how thoughtful you are. You're very analytical. You kind of remind me of the professor and like all the ways that you want to break down the thing and the steps that you'll take, and you're creating procedures in terms of filming and taping where the tripod goes, and just all the details that you brought into the process I thought was really cool. And then to see you go and execute, it wasn't flawless. There was a couple hiccups, some of which weren't your fault, but then you were so resilient and came back and executed at a really high level. And ultimately it's led us to, hey, we've qualified. That was so cool. So talk about this year. Now, back to where you were before, or what you had mentioned before. We're at this moment. You've just qualified. What's that feeling like, given all that you've just shared and all that you'd gone through? Now You're officially a 2025 CrossFit Games qualifier. Like, we're going to Columbus. Where's your head at?
I'm just so grateful. I feel so fortunate. I mean, as we've talked through, I know what it feels like to not make it, to get close. And then I know how many great athletes out there just from legend competitions and the CrossFit Games season the last few years. I know how many great athletes are out there. And there's so many factors that go into whether or not someone makes the games. Like, how do the events shake out for you as an athlete and your skill set? How are you feeling that week? You know, the team around you, the support that you have, just in terms of your setup for a workout. You have the video stuff all put together, the game plan for how you're going to attack a workout, and just your mental approach to a workout as well. You know, and then this year, being able to do this with you and get to push each other, something I hadn't experienced before. I mean, it's totally that like iron sharpens iron. That was the kind of like experience that I received out of that. Man, I didn't fully expect to make the games. When the leaderboard posted, I was just sitting outside. I was like number 34. And honestly, I mean, we texted right after that. And my first thought was, yeah, that's pretty good. That's close. That is so close. I cannot believe how close I am. I'm getting closer. I'm closer than I was last year. And then maybe next year I can inch my way a little bit closer. And then who knows? You know, maybe when I age up, or maybe in a year or two from now, maybe it happens. And then, you know, we do have this whole video review process. So maybe the leaderboard gets shaken up a bit. Maybe I move up the leaderboard. Like, I'm not going to get my hopes up too high, but it could happen. So anyway, that whole excruciating, I can't even remember how much time went by of the validation and video review and penalties and all that happened. And man, did it shake up a lot. You know, if you're sitting there and you're plus or minus 5 from that cut line, man, your emotions can really go up and down quite a bit. So I kind of made a rule for myself, like I can only look at the leaderboard once a day. I tried to hold myself to that. I did have some buddies kind of texting me throughout the day. So maybe I kind of got wind of like what was going on without looking. Yeah, sure enough, man, my videos didn't get penalized. They stood where they were. And I just kind of kept inching my way forward. So ended at 27, I believe was the final ranking, and secured my spot to the games, man. And I'm just so grateful I got through. I can't wait to experience this with you and the Boulder crew and some athletes that I've connected with these past couple years. So I think grateful is the word.
I think that works. And I believe it with every ounce of your being that you are. And it makes me root that much more for you, because knowing some of what you've gone through, as I said before, everybody that's at the games, they're going through something. You know, they've not had just a streamlined linear journey. They've battled all sorts of things. But it's hearing stories like yours that are so relatable, where you're just like, man, I'm so excited that you accomplished this thing, that you've achieved what's been a dream and a major aspiration over the last couple of years, knowing what it takes to get there. And the fact that you and I got to do it together in our backyard essentially just adds to the coolness and the special nature of this story. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, man. So you touched on it. Now, I'm stoked for the games for many, many reasons. One of which is to go and hang out with our Boulder crew and the athletes that are going from Boulder and just have such a fun presence there. But let's talk about Boulder, because you haven't been on Boulder all that long. You inserted Boulder when? Not that long ago. And I'm
January
curious, like,
1st.
so why? What made you make the change? How's it been? How do you feel like it's impacted your fitness, and ultimately, has it contributed to you qualifying for the games?
Well, I mean, let me just start by saying this. I qualified for the games and I haven't before. I think Boulder, well, yeah, so we connected in December and you had invited me to come by for some workouts, and we got to talking about Boulder, and you kind of filled me in on what you really liked about it and what it had been doing for you. And you mentioned that January would be a great time if I would be interested in trying it out, because it was the start of a new cycle. I think it was the open cycle. that it'd be a great time to try it out because you weren't like deep into a cycle where the volume is high, intensity is really high. So it was kind of a programming friendly time for me to step in. And I gave it a little bit of thought. I was like, why not try this out? Like, I'm not concerned about getting through the open. I've established that for a number of years now. And, this super fit guy that I've connected with, Josh here, is doing Boulder and stands by it. Yeah, like totally. Let's try it out. And man, it was so refreshing to try it. My experience coming from Mayhem, very positive experience, definitely helped kind of me level up in certain areas, strength, gymnastics, just capacity, and definitely helped me out. Boulder has just been another leap forward for me. I love the gymnastics endurance that we do, and it's just helped me evolve as an athlete and just leveled me up in other areas. So I think it's just taken me up like another notch. And man, I am still like humbled every day. There's so many great Boulder athletes that are just crushing workouts. And I'm kind of an athlete that doesn't look at the leaderboard too much. I might look at it like 1 or 2 days a week, but I don't live on the leaderboard. I want to see constant progress within myself. And I know if I'm getting better, that's all that really matters. I don't need to ride the emotional roller coaster of, hey, I didn't finish up as high on the leaderboard as I wanted. That's okay. As long as I know I'm getting better, that's what really matters. And it's worked for me to do it that way. So yeah, Boulder has been such a great, I've always been a Jason Grubb fan. I think it was back kind of a few years ago when he was doing the RV thing. I just was like, I love those videos. I would grab my wife and be like, watch this guy. We need to go do this. And she's like, no, we're not going to do this, but it's pretty cool. And it's kind of fun to watch to see what he's up to. So anyway, that's just kind of like how I gravitated towards Boulder. And yeah, I just found a home here and I'm loving it.
That's really cool, man. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I can't keep saying the same thing. I feel like I say the same things on each podcast, but like the proof points are there. I love hearing stories like yours where you've gone through what you've gone through. Insert Boulder. And there are other factors. Not like Boulder was the one thing that was the difference maker for you, but your programming and improving your fitness is a pretty significant factor relative to some others. And to see how well you performed during semis and now to be in the position that you're in, really cool. Major proof point. Boy, I'm glad that I think that was like the first workout we had done in the boombox at my place. We had that conversation. I think I was just making the transition myself, and so it was fresh in my mind, like, man, yeah, you want to talk programming? Let's talk programming. Here's what I'm doing now, all the things it's doing for me, how I'm feeling. It was just an honest account of like my previous experience and current experience. And yeah, I don't think I was trying to apply any pressure, but I'm glad that you made the transition and we just got to share some of this journey together. Been really cool.
Yeah, no, you weren't pressuring at all. If anything, I was trying to pull it out of you because I remember back at a time where I was kind of looking at some of the different programs out there. The ones that had kind of stood out to me were Mayhem, Training Think Tank, and Boulder. And Boulder is newer. So a few years back, I decided to jump on Mayhem. Just such a proven, program, and love that community as well. But yeah, Boulder, it's just so oriented around competitive masters athletes. That's what I am. That's what I do. And yeah, it's just been a great fit.
Yeah, right on. I do want to now circle all the way back because I feel like whoever's watching this is getting to know you a little bit better, and I think appreciating the kind of person that you are. How did we get to this point? Go way back. Were you a former athlete? Were you not an athlete? When did you pick up CrossFit? How did that come into your life? I want our audience to have an understanding of the kind of man that you are and the things that have shaped you to become that man.
Yeah, definitely an athlete my whole life. Grew up playing a lot of different sports. Basketball was my love. Just never grew over 5'9". So I kind of stopped there. And yeah, where can I take that? In college, I threw the javelin. Kind of found a unique sport that wasn't a team sport. It was something that I could just put in all the work that I wanted to, and I could get out of it what I put into it. And so found some success, found a good competitive outlet with that. Then after college, it was kind of like, man, what do I do now? I got into running for a while, ran a few marathons, half marathons, and kind of enjoyed that. And then I just reached a point where I was like, gosh, I want to do something else. And I always liked what I heard about CrossFit, just the challenge of it and how the movements are always changing. And so, yeah, I just remember seeing a kind of an stake sign somewhere, like, come try out CrossFit free for a week. So my first gym was Sasquatch CrossFit in Redmond, Washington. So that was my first CrossFit gym. Was there for about 5 years, and man, did I mean, first workout was tough, and I was like, I finished last in the class, but it got me. It pulled me in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was there for about 5 years, and then transitioned to my current gym, CrossFit Big Rock, out here in Duval, Washington, where both of us live. And that's my home gym, and love the community there, and everyone has been such a support to me. So yeah, I've been doing CrossFit for 10 years, and yeah, that's where we are today.
Yeah, that's cool. I've seen you, so you coach also your son's basketball team at the Y. I've seen you out there dribbling around. You've got some real handles. You're very natural with the basketball in your hand, so it doesn't strike me as a surprise at all to hear that you had a love of basketball.
Hey, you know
That's
what?
really
If
cool.
they could just please like introduce a ball sport into CrossFit, we would be good, man. Like you have to throw a football. Didn't they have a softball toss several years
I don't know
ago?
what year that was, but that was way back. Yeah, I remember like Rich Froning and Jason Khalifa chucking a softball, and Rich was a former baseball player, so he looked great and hucked that thing out there. And there were some other athletes, so you're like, oh, yikes.
I mean, I would love that, but yeah, if you didn't grow up playing ball sports, then it probably wouldn't be fair. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my background.
that's cool. Thanks for sharing that, man. Justin, I have to say, it has been a real blessing getting to know you and getting to train with you and getting to do Saturday sessions together. And it's kind of special getting to just bond with another man who shares similar interests, similar values, similar family, similar stage of life. It's not often that you get that. And so I'm grateful for you personally, for the relationship that we've got. I'm probably going to try to peer pressure you into coming over tomorrow morning and getting another training session in so we can talk about that here shortly. But I'm really grateful that you spent time to share your story on the podcast. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Like for me, my mantra this year, I know we've talked about yours and what a great mantra that's been. But for me, it's been leaning into others.
Mm,
After I've spent some time kind of reflecting on things this year, getting to connect with you, work out with you. I have a great training partner in the gym that I got to do some training sessions with. And there's a few others that, make sure I'm out there putting my best effort. So yeah, man, super grateful. And I'll be there Saturday morning.
countdown is on.